All right. Well, hello and good morning. Thanks to those of you who are promptly on time at 11:30. So good morning to most of you. Those of you on the East Coast, good afternoon. First and foremost, I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe during everything that's going on right now. And I want to thank you for joining us for today's e-commerce and manufacturing webcast. Navigating the relationship between dealer networks and other existing customers and channels. Here's a look at today's agenda. I'll go ahead and do brief introductions, and then we'll spend a majority of our time today with our guests talking about today's topic and wrap it up with some designated Q&A time at the end. That being said, if you do have any questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to send those via the chat or Q&A boxes, and we'll address those if we can in real time. Otherwise, we'll save them for the end there in that designated time. So just a quick look at Liberty Technology Advisors. We are a 100% independent business management consulting firm. Founded in 1995. We have a team of seasoned expert consultants who specialize in business process improvement, ERP evaluation, selection, and implementation, as well as some other technology advisory services. And here's just a look at those specific services. So the core ERP and BPR up at the top, as well as our technology advisory services. Those are things like interim CIO, IT security advisory, and value-added services such as project rescue, ransomware recovery, training and support, things like that. And today, I'm thrilled that we're going to be joined by LTA President Joel Schneider. You can take a look at Joel's experience here on the screen. Joel has over 25 years of experience and has been a part of countless ERP projects, including adding e-commerce to manufacturing businesses, which is really why everyone's here today. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Joel. So Joel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate it. And I want to repeat what Brad said in the very beginning. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy, and really appreciate everyone's time during this truly unprecedented time that we're living in right now. So I appreciate it. Hopefully everyone is working from home and staying away from people. So we're all doing this remotely. So let's, Brad, if you could just go to the next page there. Before we get into the details about e-commerce and manufacturing, I hope everyone appreciates that no company is the same. Each company is unique in their own way of doing business. There's a lot of factors that go into this, such as what your company makes, how you sell it, and your channels, or who you sell your products to as a manufacturer. So for example, if you make a car, your channel are dealers. You could make bathroom accessories, and you may sell to mass merchants like Home Depots, Lowe's, plumbing distribution companies, etc. You could also sell fitness equipment. For example, you could sell to retail stores, and there's a million of them out there, or you may sell direct, and that's another way of getting close to the customer. And then, of course, the classic example here it is in March of 2020 with all this stuff going on. If you sell disinfectant wipes, you may have a different way of going to market and what is best for you. So what we're going to talk about today is no company is exactly the same. So everyone is unique. So now when we get into the purpose and desired outcomes, obviously, if you're going to venture into e-commerce, in other words, sell direct and go around your traditional challenge, you need to look at, is this the right strategy for you? Is this the proper strategy? Is this the correct strategy? So with the emergence of e-commerce over the past 10, 15 years, and technology that enables you to do this and the prevalence of ease of technology to do e-commerce. The question is, are you as a traditional manufacturing company, do you want to sell direct to consumer? Why do you want to do that? And what impact is this going to have on your channel today, whether it's a retailer, a channel partner such as a distributor, et cetera, et cetera. So manufacturing companies are now all considering and determining their strategy on how to embrace e-commerce. So the desired outcomes are obvious. You want to sell more and make more money, but look at the other side. You also have the opportunity to reach new customers and get closer to your end customer. And once again, you have to determine if this is the right strategy for you or not. And you get to offer more variety customers and quantities, qualities, and SKUs, which is both an advantage and disadvantage, because you normally sell a case on a pallet to distribution. Now you're selling in a smaller quantity each. So you have to look at all the components of doing that. You could also strengthen relationships with your existing vendors and customers. And it's very important we talk about marketing. The improved marketing opportunities and campaigns are tremendous. So the whole idea here is to identify what your desired outcomes are. Is this right for you? And determine if there's a good strategy or a proper strategy for you. So when we talk about, is this a good and proper strategy, let's talk about the different areas of impact on whether this is right for you or not. So Brad, if you could just go to the next slide there. The key here is go into this project, the project being the consideration or your strategy, with your eyes wide open. Don't be naive about this. Don't think this is a panacea. Don't think, if you will, to quote the famous movie line, if you build it, they will come. Because maybe they will, maybe they won't. And if they do, is it good or bad for your business? So remember, this is not a panacea, and don't be naive. But there's some impact on this. So for your company, the manufacturing company, you may have to consider added customer service, because now you're dealing with, as opposed to 1,000 customers, it could be 1,000,000 customers because they're the consumer. You have to take into consideration returns or exchanges, warranty. Most of the manufacturing companies are not dealing with this today. And also new shipping sizes and packaging. Now you have to package in each. You may put an insert or a coupon in there, and also different ways of shipping, as opposed to truckloads. Maybe you're now doing a FedEx or a UPS type of shipping. The other thing from a technology standpoint, take a look at your current ERP system. Is it built? Is it meant to sell to millions of customers versus 1,000 dealers? So you may need to look at additional software and how you're going to communicate to your customers. So from a marketing standpoint. So there's a lot of areas that you want to look at, impact for your company. And for the dealer, which is your existing channel, if you will, think about channel conflict. If you sell a piece of equipment and you sell through a dealer network, the dealer's going to say, you're taking my customers away. But there's ways to address that. For example, you can find a way to compensate a dealer in a territory. You could give them exclusivity when customer service, repairs. And the other side are spare parts. Where is the consumer going to buy spare parts from? How are they going to install them? The impact on warranty and things like that. So the dealers have a huge component that you need to consider when you do this. And then large existing customers, same type of thing, channel conflict, customer service repairs, and loose, all play a big impact in this. So once again, don't go into this scenario naive and think I can now sell a one-off thing that I make direct to a consumer and make more money, because the other side of this is you have to take into consideration pricing and margins and your business processes that may also be affected, as opposed, because now you have to pull things off of a distribution in your warehouse in eaches versus large lots. So there's a lot to consider here. So before you just run into and buy an e-commerce system, take a look at all those different areas. And once again, on your company side, the manufacturing company, do not underestimate your current ERP system functionality. Can your system actually do this? It has the ERP, you could take orders, process orders, ship orders, but how does it impact with your CRM system, marketing automation system, e-commerce system, the integration, and all those other areas, and your business processes? Don't underestimate the change to your business processes. On the flip side, let's look at some advantages. Why do this? You're going to get close to your customer, which is always a goal of what you're trying to achieve. So as we talked about the technology considerations, can your current ERP system accommodate selling direct to consumers? It's a major point. Currently, most ERP systems for manufacturing companies are meant to sell to a customer base where you order 1,000, could be 1,000 units, it could even be 1,000 cases, and you pick, pack, and ship into a box, into a case, onto a pallet, onto a truck. And can your system accommodate eaches? Well, you need a new CRM system or e-commerce system. And the other part of CRM that most people don't actually take into consideration that's very important, marketing automation. If you're selling to a consumer, take advantage of getting close to the consumer. And how are you going to do marketing? If you sell product A, are you going to have on your website, hey, you bought product A, do you want to buy product B? It's a 15% discount. Now you have to take into consideration the technology behind add-ons, buy one, get one free, coupons, discounts. All those promotional items need to be built into your system. So in addition to CRM, take a look at marketing automation, e-commerce, and the integration. And then, like we said before, the business process changes. Not surprisingly, communication, whether you're putting it into an ERP system or putting in e-commerce for a manufacturing, it's all about communications. So you need to get your current customers, your channel partners, part of this process. If you sell direct and your current customers are not aware of this, you don't want to spring them on them. It won't go over very well. So make them involved in the process. They know that e-commerce is real. They know that manufacturing companies are considering this. They want to work with you. So it's very important you set up some type of dealer network advisory council or customer advisory council and get teams of people to start talking with your company, with your customers. It's a real opportunity to work with your existing customers, raise awareness, and get their buy-in and assistance. And of course, develop how this is going to be a win-win strategy. The old acronym WIIFM, what's in it for me? You need to consider what's in it for your current customer. And there's lots of ways that could benefit a customer. You can sell direct, but that customer may be the repair site, the warranty site, the spare parts site, the installation site, who's going to put it together. There's lots of ways to make sure that your current channel customer is not just involved, but they make revenue as part of this process. So it's really important we take a look at that. And finally, decision making. As you go through this, weigh your business decision. Don't go lightly. Don't just buy an e-commerce system and bolt it on. Understand and take into consideration all the factors and what is best for your company as well as your customers. So you want to be informed on all the potential business impacts. Like we talked about before, what are your potential gains and costs of new revenue streams? Put some business models together for that. Potential agitation or disruption of your existing customers. What impact will that have on your business? and the additional strain of internal systems. Think warranty systems, returns, repair that you may not do today that you have to take into consideration. So it's not just repairs, warranties, and returns. Think spare parts. Think about how you're going to do pricing. Think about your e-commerce functionality. Think about packaging, coupons, insert marketing systems, and the obvious one that isn't even written down here, we wanted to talk about today, how are customers going to actually pay for this? Now you may need to take credit cards and you have to be PCI compliant, and everything around PCI compliance becomes very, very important. So you have now more customer service issues that you have to deal with, more technology, and in today's day and age, you can't do any system without considering IT security and security, PCI, and things like that. So be informed of everything that goes through this process. It's really important you take into consideration all those factors.
Joel, real quick, we had a question come in just with regards to taking in that payment. What do I need to do? What do I need to be aware of if I process payments directly, i.e. credit card processing, which they don't currently do?
So most manufacturing companies don't take credit cards, and if they do, it's not a high transaction. There's the obvious things for PCI compliant. You're not storing your credit card numbers. You cannot store them on your system. Encryption isn't even good enough. They have to be passed through to the credit card processing company. So and procedures need to be in place, and how it's displayed to your customer service agents. How often do you make a phone call and the customer service agent says, just put it on the same credit card? They're not actually seeing your credit card. So remember the importance of PCI compliance. Don't store it. These are not the old days when you wrote down the credit card numbers in your system and put it in a file for each customer. You can't do that anymore. There's too much risk out there. And the risk is on the company, by the way. The consumer is protected.
Great.
So let's talk about a couple of real life examples. We have a few of them in here. I think we have 3 examples that we're going to go through, and then we'll summarize, and then we can get to more questions. Go through these rather quickly. So real life example number 1 is a leading manufacturer of outdoor power equipment for both consumer and commercial. Really interesting because they sell through retailers and dealers. They sell to both, and they're considering going direct to consumer. It's a great idea. Their customers want it, and their competitors are also selling direct to consumers. However, before they do it, all those things we talked about, how to get a CRM system in place, marketing automation, how to actually ship a product that weighs a couple hundred pounds to the consumer that needs to be put together when it's delivered. Think of a bed or a piece of furniture. But in this case, there's going to be parts. Anything mechanical breaks over time. So you have to take into consideration all the things about repairs and maintenance, warranty, and if it breaks, where do I take it back? If I bypass that dealer, how do I return it? Does the consumer really want to package up a couple £100 thing and send it back to the manufacturer? Where do they send it back to? How do they fix it? Now they have to have a whole business process and operation and staff to fix that thing, as opposed to going to a dealer who has the relationship with the end consumer, who knows how to fix it, maybe even give them a loaner thing and go from there. So in this case, we're putting together a strategy of how best to sell certain items direct to consumer. And that's really the key thing. You don't have to sell your whole catalog of items to the consumer direct. You can start with a subset or specific items to sell direct to consumer. So there's lots of ways to do this. Once again, the strategy here is as important as the execution. And the things we talked about before about communication to the dealer is critical as you go through this process. So that's real life example number one. So they're in the strategy standpoint. The real life example number two is a little bit different. They implemented their e-commerce solution over a year ago. And it's working very well. These are small little, if you will, markers, without telling you who they are. But these markers are small, they're packaged independently, and they can be sold easily to the consumer without disruption of their picking, packing, shipping operations. So it was sort of like these units are made for it. They're individually wrapped, if you will. If you go to a corner drugstore, they're on the racks that you see, you can take them off. So in this case, they were successful in going through their strategy. The strategy led to the implementation of a e-commerce system that was integrated with their back-end ERP, and they were able to produce more revenue, and their marketing automation system got them very close to a number of customers. So, and they did not disrupt their channel. Their channel, by the way, was through a distribution network and retailers. So in this case, this was a very successful deployment of an e-commerce solution for a manufacturing company. They gained more customers. And remember, you could gain a customer through e-commerce. That does not mean the only way they're going to buy in the future is through e-commerce. They may say, hey, I tried it, I liked it, now I'm going to buy a lot of these through distribution. So the other thing we want to talk about here is this doesn't have to be an only scenario. I don't only need to sell that consumer direct. That consumer can try a product, low cost, get a good deal direct, and then when he's ready to buy in quantity for his company, the consumer, they can now buy through distribution. In this case, it was a real win-win situation because they went through the strategy. They had an ERP system, modern one, by the way. They got an e-commerce system integrated with that, and also got a CRM and marketing automation and put it all together. In addition, they also talked about coupons. So they were able to do couponing, which benefited everybody. And it was a real success story. So, excuse me, it's a way to actually generate more revenue, get closer to your customer, and be a real win. And then the last example, this is a large American manufacturing company. They have presence in 75 countries and 5 continents, one of the foremost leaders in the automotive aftermarket product industry. They sell primarily through retailers. It could be Walmart, it could be Target, it could be CVS, could be Walgreens, and automotive aftermarket retailers that are all across the country. That's their primary channel on how they do things. What is really interesting on this is they went through the strategy, they implemented e-commerce, and they sold quite a bit through their e-commerce. The challenge for them was, as opposed to selling truckloads to Walmart, they're selling eaches to a consumer. So they had to take into consideration how to do customer service, how to get that from their website into their system, and do efficient picking, packing, shipping. In addition, what they did, which was really a great thing to do, they used this opportunity not just to get closer to their consumer, but to look at it from a marketing piece. So they did a lot of coupons, a lot of inserts, a lot of promotions, special packaging, which is very important, how you package this. You just don't want to put it in a box. You want to make this special for the consumer. And it worked out very well for them. And it did not disrupt their channel. If Walmart lost one sale of one thing, it was okay, but they got closer to the consumer. And once they tried it again, then they went back and bought more, and maybe they went to their traditional retailer to do it. So, and they still got coupons, and that's how they got their channel partners involved, by doing couponing and discounts and promotions. very well integrated solution. So it worked out very well. The key to this for people listening at manufacturing companies is develop your strategy. Can't stress that enough. Don't just jump headfirst into this. Develop your strategy on how you do this. And then finally, we're running right up to the timeline here. I'm sorry about that. I was talking a little bit too much. Is remember, it's not all wine and roses. It's not all great. It's not right for everybody. So think through your strategy and go through all your models to make it work. Make sure you think through all the different scenarios and weigh the consequences on your channel, and consider the impact on internal operations, primarily warehousing and distribution, customer service, and your business systems, ERP, your CRM, marketing automation, and your e-commerce system, website, who's going to maintain the website, who's going to update the website, who's going to do all the promotions on the website, where your data lives, what's the single source of truth, my inventory stocking positions, is it in stock, out of stock? All that stuff must be taken into consideration with e-commerce.
Perfect.
Develop your overall business model, your cost model. Once again, not all wine and roses. Make sure you go into this with your eyes wide open. And, we're here to help our manufacturing clients develop their overall strategy on how to deploy e-commerce for manufacturing companies. Sorry about that, Brad. I went too long.
No, you're perfect. And, we've still got a few minutes. So I do want to thank you and thank everyone for joining us. We're going to open it up to some questions and answers. I know we had a few more questions come in while Joel was speaking. So we'll keep that going as long as we need to. So if you have to hop off, we understand, but if you have questions, definitely stay on. So Joel, the first one that came in through is, how important is a CRM solution to track customers in an e-commerce solution?
So I'm not sure how to stress this enough. It's very important. You're selling to a consumer. You just don't want to do it to make a sale. You don't want to sell this bottled water to the consumer unless you know who that consumer is. You want to track who it is, how they came to you, their activity on your website, their email address, their contact information, especially if they buy, now you have all their contact information. So you need to have some type of system, CRM primarily, to keep track of that customer. Can't stress it enough, because that's how you're going to do future marketing and future sales initiatives. So you could have that customer get close to you. This is all about bringing that customer close to you and involving your channel partner. There's ways to do CRM, marketing automation with your channel and the consumer at the same time. It's critical. I can't stress it enough. Otherwise, you're selling and you're not taking advantage of the cost to do that. It's going to cost you more to sell one thing than a truckload of things. And the benefit is, I'm going to get customer information. I can now reach out to that customer and say, boy, you bought that bottle of water. I'm just drinking a bottle of water. How did you like that bottle of water? Oh, you liked it? Here's a coupon for 10% off your next bottle. Or you bought water, coffee. Most of our customers who bought water bought coffee. Here's a coupon for 15% off coffee. You could either buy it direct or maybe even go to your channel partner, the retailer or your distributor. If you don't have a CRM system in place, you're losing that benefit. So long answer to a short question, it's a need, it's a must.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
With regards to dealer networks and existing channels, when and how often should someone start communicating with them?
Well, the obvious answer is early and often. But before you get your dealer involved, in this case, a dealer, let's call it a dealer, you want to have some internal conversations first to bake out your strategy, your pros, your cons for both you, the manufacturing company, and those dealers. Then you want to get them involved in the conversation. If you just float the idea about saying, hey, we're thinking about going direct, the first thing that dealer's going to do is raise their arms and say, you're just killing my business. So come up with your strategy, come up with that what's in it for me approach. Remember we talked about that? That will help a lot. But right after you develop your strategy, get your dealers involved. Maybe they're part of your website. Maybe they're advertising on your website. Maybe you could push some business to the dealer if it's not right for you. There's a million ideas out there and strategies to get your dealers involved, but you want to think through this first before a manufacturing company just says on March 31st, we're thinking about going direct to consumer, and then you call up your dealer and shock them. That's usually not the best approach.
Great. All right, we got a couple more here. So is it important to have an all-in-one solution, and do most core ERPs have an e-commerce functionality built in?
Great question. Love this question. Do most ERPs have e-commerce functionality? No, most don't. Some do. Some of the newer systems out there do. Without getting into names, some were built with multi-channel sales built in. So you want to look at multi-channel sales. There's specific functionality. But most of your traditional ERP systems either don't have the e-commerce system, don't have the functionality, don't have the integrated CRM and marketing automation piece built into it. In addition, you have to take into consideration business processes, which are very important. Your ERP, your traditional ERP doesn't understand how to necessarily go through picking eaches. Do I set up a separate picking location for eaches versus cases? Do I break a case? All those things are important. But two parts of this question. Do most core ERPs have e-commerce? No, but some do. And you want, if that's important to you, take a look at those. And the first half, I think, is it important to have an all-in-one solution? Not necessarily. With today's systems, any modern ERP has integration capabilities. So let's talk about the one thing we talk about is inventory. On your website, you want to say, if I have this stuff in stock, how does it get that information? Through the core ERP. So that integration capability is probably there. So you do not need to have an all-in-one solution. What you need to have is integration capabilities, and think through how it's going to work. Is my inventory live? Is it updated once a day? Updated 4 times a day? What if somebody hits the website and gets the last one? How do I allocate inventory? Just think through all those solutions. But no, you don't need to have an all-in-one solution.
Great. I think this question circles back to when we were talking about some credit card processing and adding that capability. Are there other personal information protection guidelines that someone needs to be aware of?
Well, there are. There are specific standards, if you will, in the industry, in the technology industry, that manufacturing companies need to be aware of when they start getting personal information. So in addition to PCI, if you're selling to Europe primarily, or have a presence there, there's GDPR. In California, there's CCPA, which is very important, because when you collect personal information, your name, your address, what you bought, shipping information, things like that, many companies might sell that. So guidelines are there to make sure you follow those with best practices, because if you have to delete Joe Smith from your system, you need to prove you could delete Joe Smith from your system. So take a look at PCI, GDPR, CCPA, which are overall guidelines, and there are actually laws in Europe and California that you have to be aware of. So it's very important you take into consideration personal information protection.
All right, the last one I have here, again, if people have questions, please submit, but the last one I have in front of me is, just given with the state of everything that's going on, is it realistic to add e-commerce right now? And if so, how long does that typical project take?
Well, I think the important part of that question is with what's going on right now. Obviously, the number one goal is for everyone to stay safe and healthy, social distancing, and following all the practices that are being presented to us by the CDC and other healthcare organizations. So that's number one. Number two, how long does this take? Developing your strategy is not a long process, maybe a month or so to actually get that done. The selection and implementation of an e-commerce strategy Think of this as a small, the keyword here is small, ERP type of project. They're very, these are components of an ERP. So it's not ERP, but think through the process. You need to understand your needs. You have to go through a selection process for the e-commerce system, maybe CRM and marketing automation, work through your integration requirements, select those partners, and then manage that implementation. So it does take a few months to go through. This is usually nothing you want to just put up in 2 weeks. There are alternatives. You could go out and buy some e-commerce solutions where you put your products up there, but those are traditionally businesses that are already selling business to consumer versus B2B that are going to B2C. So it's going to take a few months to do this.
All right. Well, with that, those are all the questions that we've gotten today. If you think of any questions later this afternoon, tomorrow, a week from now, we are here to help. We're here to answer any questions, talk through strategy. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Joel or myself. Our contact information is on the screen. And given the time, I think we're going to wrap things up. So I appreciate everyone taking time out of their day this morning to join us. Joel, thank you for walking us through this presentation, and I hope to see everyone next month.
Thank you.